This episode of The Doctor's Corner is brought to you by American Legion Post 511, Dallas, Texas.
Greetings, fellow veterans. I am Tynetta Runnels, a proud 15-year Army veteran who honorably served my country, and now I serve my fellow veterans and the community at large as a proud Legionnaire. I serve as the American Legion Texas 5th District's PR Chair, and I also serve locally as the Judge Advocate of the family-friendly American Legion Post 511. Post 511 revolves around the 4 pillars of the Legion: helping veterans, promoting national security, supporting children and youth, and upholding Americanism, which can be greatly manifested during graveside honor guard services. American Legion Post 511, located in the heart of the southern sector of the great city of Dallas, welcomes veterans to join us as new Legionnaires, Post 511's auxiliary, and you can also join Dory Miller VFW Post 1406, all housed at one location, 3607 South R.L. Thornton Freeway, Dallas, Texas 75224. Our contact number is 214-941-3554. Feel free to contact us for membership applications or go to legion.org, print the application, and drop it off at the post. Be the change and the change agents that comes in to help veterans serve other veterans for God and country.
Hello podcast listeners. Welcome to The Doctor's Corner. I am your host, Dr. K, and usually on The Doctor's Corner, we offer critiques on a wide variety of literature compilations with hopes of helping you determine your next compelling read. Reading is still fundamental and is so very important to your health and well-being. Scientific evidence has proven the benefits of increased memory, muscle relaxation, improved critical and analytical thinking skills, stress reduction, just to name a few. While detailing the importance and value of reading, let me take a brief moment to extend my heartfelt condolences to the family, friends, supporters, and fans of renowned author Toni Morrison, who I ever so admire. Ms. Morrison was the first African-American woman to win the Nobel Prize for Literature and earn the award of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian honor in the United States, which was presented by President Barack Obama. Ms. Morrison passed on Monday, August the 5th, 2019, at the age of 88 in New York. And Ms. Morrison, I will continue to follow your lead of encouraging and stressing the importance and value of reading. On today's show, we're going to do a little something different. Okay. I have co-hosting with me today, retired United States Navy veteran, Andrew Wilson Sr.
Good morning, everyone, and glad to be here with another exciting adventure with Dr. K.
And we have the consummate honor to interview an American soldier, a United States Army Paratrooper soldier, to be exact, Specialist Andrew Wilson Jr. Specialist Wilson has been an active duty soldier for the past 7 years. His military occupational specialty, or MOS, is satellite communications. So before we begin, Specialist Wilson, would you share a little bit about yourself with the Dr. Corner listeners?
I would love to, Dr. K. Hello, everyone. A little bit about myself. I have been in the military for the past 7 years as right now a specialist. I've been more or less all over the world, most of Southeast Asia. It's actually beautiful places. I grew up between Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Texas, joined the military fresh out of high school, and been in ever since.
Very nice, very nice. So just for the listeners, if you could state your name, rank, what branch you serve, and how long you've been serving, just to recap.
No problem. My name is Andrew Wilson Jr. I'm a specialist in the United States Army for 7 years now.
All right, son. Why did you choose this branch of service?
Well, to be honest, I've always wanted to follow in the footsteps of my parents when it came to service. They both joined the Navy out of high school, as did I. While attending DeSoto High, I joined the JRTC program, which happened to be an Army-focused one. Learning the mannerisms and rank structure of the Army, I decided to continue with what I know and join the Army afterwards.
Very nice. I like it. So what is your job like in service? Is there anything that you can tell us without us having to be killed afterwards?
Absolutely. I am a 25 Sierra. That's easily Googleable on, say, YouTube, and get a 10-year-old video anyway. But that stands for Satellite Communications Operator and Maintainer. I provide internet and phone capabilities while in the field. After that task complete, I pretty much have become a glorified IT guy.
Well, glorified IT guys make a lot of money, right?
That they do, especially when they remove the title of glorified. Alrighty then. Can you share with the listeners any noticeable differences that you have in reference to yourself and your behaviors and mannerisms and things that you hold dear and things that have been derived to be as important as they were prior to you joining the military?
Very good question. A lot for me has changed. Physically, I'm much stronger than I used to be, faster, more confident based on the accomplishments I've had in the last 25 years of my life. But it's not all positive. My knees ache from time to time, occasionally a pulled muscle, the ever-present danger of jumping out of airplanes. But mentally, I can say the military is not for everyone. It can be taxing even at the best of times. Long hours, okay pay and benefits, but at the cost of conforming and performing. I know some people that want a reason for everything he's told to do, which can cause problems. Others I met just kind of cracked. I've been mentally over-encumbered once, stacking responsibilities, unrealistic expectations, reprimanded when you're inevitably going to fail, tops on your own self-doubts and all. But ultimately, I can say if you learn to manage all of that, you can find a happy medium of meeting new people and being able to join forces with different people in all walks of life. And it's kind of a very eye-opening experience to see the different walks of life come together for a common goal. You have people from Minnesota, Tennessee, city life like, say, Chicago, Texas, New Jersey, all the different mannerisms you see from, like, they're completely different from what, like, the public personas are versus the individual person.
So you're having an up close and personal experience with cultural differences then, right?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, we're all in the same country.
Right. Very nice. Very nice. So do you like it?
For that, I would say it's a mixed bag. There's times where I wouldn't imagine doing anything else, and there's other times I would rather be doing anything else.
So our next question is, what do you do to have fun?
What do I do to have fun? Right now, I mostly delve most of my time into just drawing and getting better at art. Previously, and a couple of years back, I've been in the military once again about 7 years. For the first, like, 6, I mostly just played video games, and that was literally all I did. Came home from work, played video games, repeat. And at that point, it hasn't helped me in my career much because I could not manage my time. And honestly, I think with any, like, hobby, it's good to have a hobby or an outlet, more or less, especially with the work and how stressful military life can be, because you don't want to not be able to vent that stress or anxiety or worry or anything else because you have your family at home that you don't see sometimes. You have worry about the future, worry about the past and everything else. So it's good to decompress pretty much. But for me, I can't manage my time very well. That's my personal weakness. And I'm working to actually fix that. But if you take a hobby and you use it as a crutch, more or less, for any stress that you have, it becomes something more than a hobby in a more negative sense, because any hobby can become a passion and any passion become a pastime, and that's perfectly fine. That's how people end up finding their dream jobs after all. For some people, that passion can turn into an addiction, and for me, I feel that's kind of what it turned into, because I would end up pulling like all-nighters on a Wednesday afternoon, staying up to 2 in the morning, and have to go to work the next day, either falling asleep at work, which of course did not help my career. But in retrospect, of course, I can't change that now. All I can do is change the future from that. And nowadays, it's a lot more tamed. I'm usually going to bed at a decent time. And I usually just pop on an audiobook, hop on my computer, and draw digitally. And as of right now, I'm trying to actually grow my skills in art to either maybe pursue a career or go into college once I get out or once I go back to the States for an art degree, either graphic design or character design. Because I find that it's not only it's like almost like a catharsis that you get to create something out of your own head. But the only problem is when you're starting off in art, it's very difficult to put what's in your head on paper because you don't actually have like a visual library to do that, of knowing, hey, this goes here, that goes there, this looks like that, and how to change things in a 3D form or 3D shape. So of course everything's gonna look bad until you get good at it. Ultimately, that's what I learned to accept early on is you're gonna be bad at it until you're not. You're not gonna get good at it unless you practice and accept anything that comes out. I mean, for me, I consider myself a bit of a perfectionist in some aspects. So some things can take me longer than others. And sometimes if something's taking too long, I toss it and go to the next thing, which of course is not always the best choice, mind you, but choices nonetheless.
Okay. In reference to any of the listeners who could possibly have children that are thinking about joining the military, or some listeners themselves may feel the patriotic itch to join the military, what would you say in the last 7 years, if you can do one thing over, what will it be?
If I could do one thing over, what would it be? What would it be? I guess the obvious answer would be change my crutch. Instead of going into video games, change it to art because that's something that can benefit me outside of the virtual aspect of it. I mean, yeah, people nowadays can go join a team and just have this big fanciful idea of, hey, I'm going to be the next ninja or the next Shroud or a Twitch streamer. And don't get me wrong, they make their money. They definitely make their money. But that's a very, 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 very small percent. That's equivalent of like getting drafted, honestly. If you hit the Twitch lottery and make a channel and it actually comes into fruition, that's fantastic for you. But for everyone else, it's a very hard road. Now, bringing it back to the military standpoint, for me, if I could do one thing over, it would be number one, learning to manage my time properly before it comes like before my video game habit became something more and more detrimental. So managing my time, answer one. Answer two, get into art earlier. Because I've definitely lost a step or two when it comes to art. I'm having to relearn a lot of things.
Okay.
Wow.
Also, I recently had a question asked to me of what would I tell someone that wasn't joining at all? And something I wanted to also add in was have a goal. I don't mean something superficial of, hey, I want to join the military. That's my plan. It's like, no, don't do that. You need to have a goal, a step A, a step B, and a step C. And you need to have a plan all the way up until either you're getting out or at least maybe a couple of years down the line. Yes, I know that's a hard thing to concept, especially for someone that's younger, say 19, 18, 17, of, hey, where am I going to be in 3 years? Because everyone's going to say, oh, I'm going to go to college. Oh, I'm going to join the military. No. What are you going to do in the military? What schools are you going to go to? Who do you know that's already in to glean information from? Because you can say, oh, I want to be an MP. And then someone laughs and tells you what an MP actually does, and it scares you. And it's like, okay, I don't want to do that. I want to be a firefighter. And it's like, okay, this is what they actually do. Get better information, get more information as much as possible, and find what you want to do in the military if you're going to join it. Have a goal set. This is what I'm going to do, and have a second plan as you're doing it. Always be striving towards a goal, because if you do not, like me, you will get complacent. And complacency in the military is bad because you will eventually settle into a groove and not move forward. Complacency is bad. Don't do that.
Wow. You mentioned something, and just for the listeners that are not military, what is an MP?
Sorry. An MP are military police.
Mm-hmm.
And when
Okay.
some people think, oh, I want to be an MP, that's because they think it's a good way to either. I have no idea why someone want to be an MP, honestly.
Well, it could be the same reason that people grow up to want to be police officers. It's that sense of authority to be able to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Another thing to touch on what you mentioned, I thought was an excellent point, was to have a goal, because everyone has a plan until their plan is changed. Once someone moves a branch or moves a stick and it throws off the dynamic of what you're doing, then people take their eye off the fact that your goal is 50 miles down the road and you're worrying about a traffic light that's 2 miles in front of you. So just because you get stopped right here doesn't mean that deter you or should move you off your path. And that's what happens with a lot of young sailors that worked for me. The one thing they wanted to do, they couldn't do it. So they said, screw the whole process. I was taught in the military that if one door closes, that means the window is open somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't get what you want, you make what you get what you want and walk right back around to where you want to be. That's what I would just add on to piggyback on to what you were saying.
Hmm.
And it's you made excellent points. And if you don't, then you would, just like you say, become complacent and settle into a groove to where I'm no longer in the military. This is a job.
Yep.
And I have to be here from 7 to 3, and then I get to do whatever I want until 6:59.
Yep. And it's funny, honestly. Well, not funny as in ha ha funny, but funny as in peculiar. Because being in it for as long as, well, I could say I have, oddly enough, I can say that now. I saw those patterns. Like you have like the jaded E4 that's just like, okay, I'm gonna get out. And so he's like gaming the system of, okay, I'm gonna do the X, Y, and Z to get out of this, X, Y, and Z to get out of that. And you have someone that's new to come in and they have all these preconceived notions. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And all of a sudden, a life slaps in the side of the head and you realize, oh, I can't do that, or I can't do this. Or worst case scenario, you have someone coming into their first unit and they go overseas as their first unit, like say Okinawa, Japan, as their first assignment. They never been out of their home city. All of a sudden, they get shipped halfway across the world, and now they're in Japan. They go from literally high school student to in Japan, and they lose their absolute minds. They go out drinking, partying, so on and so forth. All of a sudden, they get in trouble. Then they get in trouble again and again and again, and they're out. And now all that time they spent, all those goals they've tried to have, are now gone. One mistake or given too much freedom without the discipline to know how to use it.
So, Specialist Wilson, what is one of the hardest tasks that you had to complete while serving?
Hardest task I've had to complete. Okay. I would say the hardest task or thing I've had to learn while being in the military is learning to give up. Now, not in this not in the sense that you're thinking of, but in the sense of asking for help when you're already spinning your wheels. Like trying to complete a task and it's just not coming together. Well, give it up to someone else who may know, like a coworker. Ask a coworker for advice. Ask your boss for advice. Someone probably knows this because they've been doing it longer. Ultimately, just asking for help when you've run out of actually exhausted all of your resources. You've asked this person, you've called this person, you've read this book, none of it's working. And instead of holding on to your pride of saying, oh, I should know this, I've been in for X amount of time, maybe it's just a simple case of fresh eyes see the problem and yours just don't. I mean, that's happened to me a bunch of times. I've gone through doing like trying to set up a system and it's just not coming together. Someone comes by, hits two buttons, and all of a sudden it's working. Yep, it does hurt your pride a little bit, but at least the mission itself has been completed. I definitely say it's something I have to learn. Humbling as it was definitely one of the hardest things I had to learn.
Very nice.
How would you describe boot camp?
And that was a while ago. Goodness. I would say that boot camp, I would describe it as literally a snapshot of what America is. You meet people from all over the country and have a single common goal. And you have drill sergeants or drill instructors that are there to teach and break all those civilian tendencies right off and build you back up as what the military thinks, or what the military feels a soldier, sailor, airman, marine, coast guard should be. And then show you how the military works in a very structured environment, getting your feet wet pretty much, and then pushing you forward into your first unit. And they instill confidence, respect, definitely accountability, and it helps you learn your strengths as well as your weaknesses. And since you're working with a team, whether it's your platoon or what have you, you learn their strengths and weaknesses as well. So when you are put in charge of said people, you are able to use each person to the best of their abilities and covering their flaws in turn. And they you.
So, what's your most memorable moment from boot camp?
That's an easy answer. I can definitely say that my most memorable moment was two things. Number one, of course, most people here have seen either some military movie, whether it's Saving Private Ryan, Jarhead, or what have you. You've seen the part where they're crawling underneath the barbed wire and they're shooting over people's heads. That's definitely one of them. Reason I remember that the most, because somehow, while it's pitch black and there's tracers going over us, hitting the berm behind us, and I'm crawling on the ground, head in the dirt, and I just feel a giant flash next to my face, and I realize I'm crawling, instead of straight ahead, I'm crawling to the left. And I actually almost bump into one of the barrels that's set to explode pretty much. So I'm just crawling into this explosive barrel. Like, yeah, that's not the right way. Let me turn around. That's definitely number one. Number two, the sense of camaraderie, or we're all in this together. Might as well enjoy it while we can. Well, what we can. We were sitting around in a circle. All of us were eating MREs, which are meals ready to eat, little like field packets of food that have varying levels of tastiness from terrible to actually pretty good. But for some reason, the terrible ones always have the best snacks. But anyway, we're all sitting around. We were all sitting around this in a circle. Drill sergeants are going by. It's about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. We're in the woods. We all have our stuff on, and we're just sitting here trading snacks back and forth, trading snacks back and forth between MREs.
Just one thing, Specialist Wilson, have put this under your hat. No MRE has been produced since 1990.
Oh no!
So understand that all of the MREs you're eating were actually packed and packaged and set for a shelf life of 50 years.
Oh no!
So yeah, the chicken a la king is the best.
Our whole life has been a lie.
You know, there's a lot of people who want to join the military, but for some reason they can't. Far as flat feet, they have asthma, there's a medical devaluation that prevents them from joining the Army. Would you say in your vast 7 years, the people that you've seen in the Army that are sick bay commanders, as you guys will call them, have that grown since the time you went in to now, or has that been frowned upon of actually going to sick bay?
I would say no. It's not frowned upon because everyone now understands or knows more or less that you only have one body, so you kind of need to take care of it. But at the same point, if someone is going to sick call to get out of PT or physical training every morning, it's gonna get noticed. So I would say no. People understand that, hey, if you have aches and pains, go get them checked out and keep all your sick call slips because that means benefits later on.
Okay.
So, Specialist Wilson, as you know, like right now, we have a phenomena where military veterans are killing themselves when they get out. You have a group called 22 Kill. There's a mainstream of media that's highlighting the fact that veterans are killing themselves 22 a day. And as an Army soldier, that is perfectly fine right now. Can you share with me, why do you think that's happening? And if you could offer a word of advice to those that struggle with whatever they struggle with, what would you say to them?
Specialist Wilson, while you're taking a second to think, Dr. K, you mind if I chime in on that for a minute?
Absolutely.
Okay. A lot of people that join the service becomes them. And once they no longer have the service, they feel that they're incomplete now. For X number of years, they knew what they were going to wear, what time they had to be there, why they were there, and what they were doing. Now they're out of the military and it's get up when you want to, do what you want to. And a lot of people can't handle technically the freedom to make the choices. Another thing is to utilize all the resources that the VA gives you. The Army, the Marines, the guys I've worked with, they had this mentality that if you talk to a mental health professional, that you'll lose your clearance, that you won't be able to do special ops, you won't be able to do any of that stuff, and then you won't be able to be a good soldier or a Marine. However, no one prepares you for when you set the gun down. And that's the thing. When you're a Army infantryman or a Marine Corps ground pounder, there is no translation of duty from Army infantryman to civilian. There's no civilian infantryman in need for. So they come out with this is all I know and I can't do it anymore. And then they try to get jobs based upon their veteran status. And it's, you have all the potential, but no credentials. And then they go get the VA to send them through school. They get the schooling. And now they're told you have all these credentials, but we can't afford to pay you what you're worth. And it becomes a catch-22. And sometimes with family and the financial aspect of it, it becomes overbearing. I'm sorry, Specialist Wilson. I just know two guys that took their lives after they got out of the military because there was nothing that they can do that would keep them in the structure that they were in And these were 20 plus year veterans. They were in the military for 20 plus years, and they took their lives because they couldn't be a part of anything anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. That's the thing where a lot of branches should. You go through 2 months of getting acclimated to the military called boot camp, but you only go to 2 days called TAP class to be acclimated to getting out.
Wow. That's good. That's informative. That's right.
I did not know that. That would definitely be something well, that's one of the points I think of is the fact that when you get in and you get, well, for me, I can't think of a better word. You have some of the indoctrination put in it. This is how the military works. This is how it works. This is what you will do. This is what you will not do. And this is what your daily life will consist of. Once you get to your unit, you learn the ins and outs of that unit, and you learn how the military works as a whole and where you fit into it. And some people in the military and out, some of either their personality traits don't coexist with the military, or the people they're trying to bring with them don't coexist with the military. Because one of the biggest problems from my experience or my research, reading, however you would like to phrase it, is infidelity in the military. Whether it's a spouse, whether it's the actual service member, that's also a big problem. Because I would say it's one is the type of person, obviously, but the stress of those deployments, like I have one boss that recently is going through a divorce, and he has a child with that same woman, but because she had an affair, he still has to fight for his custody of his daughter. She's not in the military, he is, and of course he can't provide, I wouldn't say can't provide childcare, but ultimately he can't
have custody because that will make him, as a single parent, that will make him not worldwide accessible.
Yes, thank you. And that's the hard thing. So he has to deal with the fact that he has to fight to get custody of his daughter, and in some ways can't because the military says no. And that's one of the things. It's like fighting with family. Fighting with family is a very difficult thing to do. Number 2, getting married to people that you shouldn't be getting married to is another reason. Because everyone knows if you're in the military, you have Joe Snuffy that fell in love at a club. It's happened. It continue to happen. No matter how many briefs you give, someone's going to do it.
Not fall in love at the club.
Do I feel I understand why some people are committing suicide? I can see it, whether it's the fear of not knowing what's coming next because you don't have all the paperwork saying, hey, you're going to go here, you're going to go to this unit, you're going to do X, Y, and Z. Whether it's like the feeling of free fall from that, the hopelessness of, hey, I just lost like what I am. I was in the military. This is what I did. That's what I was good at. And now I can't. The free fall from that. It's like all your support structures just snap at once. You don't have your camaraderie, you don't have your friends because they're in a different unit. You're back home where you live. You don't have the ready source of like people ready to look out for you. Because yeah, you have family. That's fantastic. But you don't have the same people that you know your situation ready to help you. And finally, of course, if your family life is not ideal, that can definitely hinder, of course, your workplace experience, whether you're in the military or out of it. So when all your support starts snapping, like your significant other leaves while you're deployed, infidelity, child care issues, just general disciplinary actions in the military, getting out when you're not ready or unprepared to get out. So like you get out of the military, but you do not have the financial means to support yourself, but you're also overqualified for positions, like you said, with the whole jobs thing. And it just becomes a spiral and a really, really big snowball. And it just can seem at some point that you're just literally mentally and spiritually over encumbered. You cannot move out of this spot. And when you're not moving, you're drowning. Eventually, you give up. And that's the sad part, because some people always say, hey, thank you for your service. And for some people, that can feel like a slap in the face. Just because I've done, like, I'll take in my instance. I've jumped out of planes. I've been to different countries. I have seen the after effects of war. I've seen a lot of things in my little life so far, and to get out of the military and to be literally, in more ways, worth just shoved into civilian life, like a free fall, more or less, free fall of hey, good luck, and you get popped out in the civilian world. Okay, now you have no PT. That's kind of a good thing, but also now you have no NCOs to talk to you. You have no boss. You have no leaders. You have no underlings. You have no DFAC. You have no drinking buddies. Literally, like your entire how do I put it?
Support system.
Thank you. Your support system. You were a piece of a puzzle that fit together. And once you're taken out of that puzzle and tossed aside, you're in that case, you have no use. And that's the scary part because a man with no use is useless. And there's really nothing you can do with a useless man. If he can't lift, if he's not smart enough to do X, Y, and Z, if he can't get a job, if he can't support anything, he has no use and therefore no value. And when someone seems to have lost value in themselves, that's the worst thing. And there is nothing stronger than the change you put on yourself, hands down. And that's the
Wow.
terrifying part because those are the ones you can't get off so easily. And
Wow.
And when you take them off, you find yourself replacing them with others.
exactly.
So now that we have kind of diagnosed the why, what would be the message to soldiers like yourself to push through, to persevere? What would you say to TDC listeners that have served and that are potentially feeling those chains that they've put on themselves of uselessness? What would you say to them, Specialist Wilson?
I would say three things. Number one, you were alive before the military. Before you joined, you had a life. Number two, if you feel that the military is all you have, realize that the military is an entity. And as soon as you're unable to do your job, it will get rid of you. And so you have to keep that in the back of your mind and understand that you are more than just what this entity gives value into you. So say you go to a whole bunch of schools, you have all this training, but use that training you've taken, whether it's like Sec Plus class, Net Plus, all these classes and certifications that give you better credentials. There's more to it than that. Not everyone in the military is planning on the military. There's plenty of people you know that have been in and say, hey, I'm just getting this for college money. Hey, I'm just doing this for X, Y, and Z. I'm just doing this for 4 years and I'm getting out. It's those people that you're like, oh, why did you join in the first place? It was for the credentials of, hey, I've been in the military, and they have a goal outside of the military. I know it seems absolutely mind-boggling. Why would you join if you're just going to get out in 4 years? But it's those people that myself I kind of envy because they already have their stepping stones. They've already laid out. They're already seeing where they're going to put the left foot, the right foot, the left foot, the right foot, and the jump after that. But it's like, well, I have to get there. So I need to do the same thing they're doing. And my last point is what was a quote I read? There was a quote I read. I cannot, of course, place the author of it, but it pretty much said, "Living in the past invites depression. Living in the future invites anxiety. Living in the present invites peace." Forgot where I had the quote from. Ultimately, it just means if you're always thinking about what's in the past, you're going to always regret it. If you think about what's in the future, you're always going to fear it. You need to focus on what's in front of you right now. And I know in the military, it's always hurry up and wait or do it now. Don't ask questions. Do it right now. And everything's last minute and everything's bad. But try to focus on what you can change right now. Not in 5 years, not in 3 months, right now. And don't think about the mistakes you made prior to. Oh, I wish I could have done this. Oh, I wish I could have done that. Because you're always going to end up looking backwards instead of where you're going.
Wow, you're amazing.
And that, Specialist Wilson, is the reason why your windshield is 77 times larger than your rearview mirror.
Yeah, spaceships don't have rearview mirrors.
They dip. Who you think you're talking to, Specialist Wilson? Come on. They come equipped. You might not understand that, Dr. K, but it's okay.
Well, I'm just kind of curious. Would you answer the same question now that we've diagnosed why veterans sometimes can't see the future or see themselves going one more day? What would you say to them?
I would say that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I would say that you're not the first person to come against the wall where you are now. And if you can push through in uniform, you can push through outside of the uniform. Because last time I checked, a uniform never made a man look good. A man always made the uniform look good. But you have to find your niche. The same way you found it in uniform, you have to find it outside the uniform. And I can personally speak of a period of time where after I retired, that sense of, wow, what am I going to do now? This is for 20 years of my life, I was in the military. All of my memories, all of my stories from adulthood are with people whom shared the same common bonds that I had, the same people that I can talk to. And man, my LPO was crazy, man. He gave me extra duty. I had to go do this and got me working in the scuppers and cleaning the buffers. Man, that's bogus. Now, a lot of people looking at, what is he talking about? But some people like, yeah, I know, man. I know. My LPO did the same thing to me. And some will say, well, all right. And you just keep going. But you have to look at it as there's nothing that suicide can fix. Killing yourself can't solve anything. All you've done was shift the burden. So whereas you were struggling, you were mentally unprepared to move forward, you've now shifted that feeling onto your loved ones who now have to deal with you not being there. So me personally, I think suicide is a selfish act. I think suicide is, like I said, a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I think it's a coward's way out. That's just my take on it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Specialist Wilson, who were your most memorable leader, or who is your most memorable leader since serving?
Okay. Most memorable leaders. I'm gonna preface this by saying memorable, in my opinion, does not always mean the best, as in like, oh, this guy was great, he was amazing, X, Y, and Z. Memorable for me stands for what could I glean or gather from that leader. Because some people may be memorable, but not in the actual good ways.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to say the most memorable leaders, but once again in no specific order, were Staff Sergeant Couture. At the time last I met him was Sergeant Chapman when I was in 5th Group, Kentucky. After that was a Staff Sergeant Mata, Sergeant Souls, and Sergeant First Class Klein. All these people made an impact with me in one way or another. It may not have been a good time with them, but it was definitely I'm better for it.
And what you'll see later on in your career is that those same people that were memorable to you and not in a positive way, those are the ones and the lessons they taught are the ones that's going to stick with you forever. I can speak on personal experience where I literally wrote an email to the second first class petty officer that I ever worked for. And I prefaced the email, the subject of the email, as mending a fence. And I told him everything that he did to me. I know why he did it. I know what he saw in me that I didn't see in myself. And when I became a first class and was leaders of these young men and women, I understood why his hair turned gray. I understood everything that he was trying to do for me that I didn't see for myself. Because like you said, at that time, only thing we cared about was getting to work on time. And are we going to be able to go to Club Metro on Tuesday? That was the thing. But those are the guys, Specialist Wilson, that you're going to find little lessons and little idiosyncrasies that they did that you're going to find yourself doing as you progress in rank.
So, Specialist Wilson, do you encourage others to serve?
Absolutely. If you can, do it. I mean, you only have like two options nowadays. It's either you go to college or go in debt, or you go to the military and you spend your time. Like that's either it. It's either you can be an entrepreneur, college, military. In my opinion, of course. I preface that.
And let's talk about your parents. You feel like it?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have one good takeaway from your mom and your dad, can you share with what that would be?
If I could have one takeaway from my parents, it would be that life does not come with an instruction manual at all, and learning to roll with the punches is definitely the best way to get through some of it. Cherishing the people you have with you and understanding that sometimes you can't always choose your family, but you can value those you have and always make new family as well.
Can you share one foundational narrative that you learned and take with you every day from your mom and your dad?
One core value instilled from me from my mom and dad. Well, from you, I would say it would be tenacity, and from my dad, persistence.
Aww. Drew, we did well.
We did well. You did great. You did phenomenal. I did well. You did phenomenal.
You did fabulous.
Okay. So now we're gonna compare compliments until the phone goes off. You did awesome.
No, I will leave this call immediately.
No, you were magnificent.
Okay, that's y'all have a great rest of y'all day.
Well, wait, Specialist Wilson, do you have any final words for the TDC listeners?
Thank you all for listening, and I hope you all have a great day or night, depending on what time it is whenever you're listening to this. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for having me over. I appreciate the time we spend together. For anyone that's curious about my art, feel free to stop by. I would just like to preface this. This is not safe for work content. If you're under age of 18, please do not follow. And follow me at simple_surmise at twitter.com. That's SIMPLE_SURMISE. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen. So in closing, it has been an honor to host this episode of An Interview with a Soldier. Thank you, United States Army Airborne Specialist Andrew Wilson Jr., for taking the time today to share your experience, and thank you for taking the baton of service from your father and I, and courageously serving and protecting this nation against enemies, both foreign and domestic. I'd also like to thank retired Navy veteran Andrew Wilson Sr. Thank you for co-hosting this episode with me today. Today's message is about military service. Serving in the military is a true act of valor, willfully sacrificing your life for a country and civil liberties upon which it was built. To all of this nation heroes, I thank you. Adversely, 22 veteran suicides a day is a tragedy, as those who free fall from the service into a kaleidoscope of unfamiliarity, minimal support, and uncertainty. From the mouth of a young soldier and a seasoned vet, camaraderie is invaluable and irreplaceable. Veterans, reservists, active duty members, call your comrade, check on them, have their back. I also encourage you to familiarize yourself with your local VA. The Veteran Administration has a host of resources and services that they can provide. In addition, establish yourself with veteran-friendly organizations. And perhaps, just perhaps, if we do these things, we can slay that 22 a day. Whew, another touchy topic, but thank you. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to this episode of The Doctor's Corner. And remember, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Doctor's Corner. And you can subscribe to the show on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Radio Public, iTunes, TuneIn, Libsyn, and of course, YouTube. Simply type in The Doctor's Corner with Dr. K, listen, like, and subscribe. This episode of The Doctor's Corner has been brought to you by American Legion Post 511 in Dallas, Texas.